Hey everybody, it's Jesse. I am walking mile 2 of my morning exercise routine here in the beautiful, brisk morning air of the lovely state of Oregon today. And I wanted to share with you my thoughts on the difficult, perplexing, ever-present question: should you watch the news? And when I say watch the news, I am including reading the news in whatever form your news consumption generally takes. When I was a kid, we still had newspapers that were delivered to your house. That was a thing that people did. And I would flip straight to the comics pages and read the comics, and that was all the news I was interested in. The terrorist attacks of 9/11 changed everything. I went from very intentionally never listening to the news to suddenly I started listening to the news every day. Well, I continued listening to the news all the way up until the 2016 presidential election, and then it wasn't that I kicked the news habit. It was that I began to feel that the news sources I had trusted up to that point had grown biased. But I replaced them with, on the one hand, a different news source that I felt was likely to be more reliable, and on the other hand, social media. So some of you may be thinking to yourselves, well, I don't really read the news or watch news on TV. I get all my news from social media. I'm here to tell you that's worse. I know this from personal experience. I used to get all my news from social media too. Here's the thing about living with a positive mindset. In his book, Before Happiness, Sean Achor reminds us that the way our brains are wired, we store and recall and process negative information more quickly and retain it longer than we do for positive information. The consequence of this negativity bias is that we require several pieces of positive information to balance out any one given piece of negative information. That is simply the way our human brains work. So here we are, we need several pieces of positive information to balance out a single piece of negative information. If you're on social media, you are receiving perhaps hundreds of pieces of negative information for every one single piece of positive information that you take in. This is the way the algorithms are written. It keeps you engaged, but at the cost of your mental health. Jerome Lanier discussed the way the algorithm works at length in his excellent book, 10 Arguments for Deleting Your Social Media Accounts Right Now. Obviously, I have not deleted all of mine, but I spend less time on social media than I used to. Beginning in late 2016, and continuing for several years, I got the majority of my news information from social media. And not coincidentally, I now consider that one of the worst times of my entire life. I describe it as my own personal rock bottom. It was terrible. Social media sent my brain into the dumps. It was a firestorm of negativity, and it took over my thoughts until I was incapable of feeling joy anymore. It did serious damage to me. And if you're still on social media, I bet that it's still doing serious damage to you right now, every day. In fact, if you're inclined to argue with me, oh, well, my feed is full of positivity. I don't know what was wrong with your feed, but my feed is full of positivity. That's possible, but it's very unlikely. It is more likely that you no longer recognize positivity. You have become so overwhelmed by negative messages that you now believe that snarky cynicism and angry self-righteousness are positive messages. You see a message of hate, and because it's directed at someone that you don't like, you believe that that message of hate is positive. It's not. A message of hate is a message of hate, regardless of who it's directed at. And thanks to social media, we've all lost sight of this. And it is tearing our society apart. It's tearing families apart. It is tearing our own individual minds apart. We're undergoing a mental health crisis in this country and all over the world right now, and people blame the pandemic and the lockdowns, but there's more to it than that. Social media is at the root of much of our global mental health crisis right now. It hurts people's brains, and I know this because I have experienced it myself. So if you're spending a lot of time on social media and you're feeling anxious and depressed, I'm going to suggest to you that there may be a relationship between those two factors, and you may want to seriously consider that. So what about non-social media? So I was talking over the weekend to my neighbor. He came over and we were chatting about my yard work, and my neighbor, just as an offhand remark, was like, oh man, I've been watching the news and I can't believe how terrible things have gotten. It's all so bad. It's really horrible, and it's just getting worse. And I was like, man, you know what? I stopped watching the news. And then I had to walk it back. I was like, well, I still check in every once in a while. I feel like it's important for us all to remain informed on some level about the important issues of the day and what's going on in the world. But there was a time not that long ago when I was scrolling. I am embarrassed to even think of how many hours every day I was wasting scrolling the news and scrolling social media. And between the two of them, it was taking up most of my thinking day. And I wasn't getting my work done. I was harming my personal relationships, and I was depressed and anxious. I'm telling you now, I believe there was a connection between spending too much time scrolling every day and feeling overwhelmed, anxious, and depressed. I believe that scrolling kept me depressed, and I had to do a lot of other stuff to help come out of it, and I'll talk more about that elsewhere. But so the answer to the question, should you watch the news? Well, are you a policymaker? If you make policy, if this is your job to make policy, then it's probably important for you to keep up on world events that are relevant to your job. No, you're not a policymaker. Are you a voter? If you're an adult, then I certainly hope you're a voter. So, how much information do you need to make decisions about which representatives and initiatives to vote for or against? Do you need to spend an hour or two every single day to get the information that you need in order to make those crucial decisions? Well, those decisions are very important, but I would suggest to you that if your state prints a voter's pamphlet, you can probably get all the information that you need to figure out how you want to vote by spending, say, 45 minutes with that voter's pamphlet. It's going to tell you everything you need to know. You do not, in fact, have to spend hours every single day, every single week, every single month of the year just to figure out how you're going to vote in the next election. Let's explore this further. Why else might you really need to know what's going on in the news? Do you make your income through investments? Yes, then you probably need to follow the business news. Do you need to follow the political news, probably only to the same extent as everyone else. For the most part, political changes are so slow that it's not going to affect your business on a day-to-day basis. And what you need to keep up with is the business news, which is not going to affect your mental well-being nearly so much as the angry, divisive political news that keeps us all engaged and unhappy. Why else might you need to know what's going on in the world? Maybe there was a major humanitarian crisis, some sort of a massive disaster, and you need to know about this. Why? Why do you need to know about it? What are you going to do? Are you going to do something about it? If you are going to donate to a humanitarian cause, then that's wonderful, and I totally support you. And I would submit that if there's a big enough crisis, you'll hear about it. You don't have to spend hours scrolling the news to find out about a major humanitarian crisis. You'll hear about it even if you completely unplug, because those events are big enough that you'll hear about it regardless. And then you can make a donation. Are you going to go volunteer? That's even better. That is a wonderful thing to do. I would submit to you that if you're the kind of person who's likely to go volunteer for a humanitarian cause, then why wait? Don't wait for it to pop up on your news headline. Go find an organization that's meaningful to you and join them right now and go volunteer. And I am behind you 100%. I'm totally behind you if you're going to go volunteer for a humanitarian organization. I think that's a fantastic thing to do for your time, for the world, and for your own mental well-being. But beyond that, why the hell do you need to know what's in the news today? I would submit to you furthermore that what's in the news is not necessarily the most important thing that's going on in the world right now. The things that tend to make the headlines are carefully selected by committee and designed by algorithms to anger and excite you in a negative way so that you'll click on those headlines and keep reading more, and click through the links in the stories to keep reading more so that you'll see more ads, so that you'll buy more subscriptions, so that you become a commodity. That's the purpose of the news, is to turn you into a commodity. Do you really want that for yourself? Do you identify as a commodity? Let's be fair, a lot of us do. So maybe I shouldn't criticize you for that. But if that's not how you see yourself, then maybe you should look at how you're spending your time. And I share this because this is something that I've done personally, and I feel like it has helped me so much. I cannot even tell you how much it has helped me to unplug, to pull back, to spend less time reading and watching the news. And I suggest to you that if you were to do the same, you will probably similarly experience very positive benefits for your own mental well-being. So give it a try, not just for a day or two. Take a news fast for an entire month. Take a news fast for an entire month and see if you feel better at the end of it.
Distance 2.0 miles.
I guess that is my cue to begin running again. So I'm going to put the phone down, and I hope that you have a fantastic day. Fill your world with positive energy. Be the light. Spread the love, and go out and do good deeds. I will be talking to you later. Hope you have a great day. Thanks a lot, everybody. Bye-bye.